Thank you for joining us. My name is Ron Freeman. I am the co-founder of Everything Senior Living. And today we are joined by our guest, Deborah. Deborah, thank you for joining us. Deborah is a nurse who's working with COVID-19 patients in a hospital. And we know how incredibly precious your free time is right now to you with how much time you're spending on the front lines. So thank you. We appreciate this so much.
You're welcome. I appreciate being here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, just really thrilled to have you. Thank you. So the first question I have for you is we'd love to get your perspective on what you're seeing in the hospital regarding COVID-19. And while you're sharing that with us, kind of let us know what you do in the hospital and kind of where you're working.
Okay, I'm a registered nurse and I work on a cardiac unit. So that's a step-down unit from the ICU unit. The ICU unit is generally where most of the COVID-19 patients are kept. Those are the ones that are intubated. And being that I work on the step-down unit, we have been trained to go into the ICU and be their backup if they need it. So we currently have about probably 15, on an average, we have about 15 patients that are ventilated and about 10 or 15 that are on our other unit that doesn't require them to be intubated. And those are, they have their test results, they know they're positive. We're just making sure to monitor them and make sure they don't require intubation.
How different is this from what your normal experience in the hospital is?
Well, it's very different. We're actually down probably about 50% of our regular everyday patients. I think they are being extremely cautious not to come to the hospital because they don't want to be exposed. In addition, they realize that the resources would be limited if we were taking patients that were having, let's say, elective procedures or procedures that could possibly be postponed. In addition to postponing the procedures or exposure, we're also preparing for the use of PPEs, the personal protective equipment that nurses would require and staffing would require to use while they're cleaning the rooms, while they're examining the patients, while they're caring for the patients. All of that is something that we take into consideration. And so the hospital has postponed a lot of the elective surgeries and any other surgeries that have to be accomplished. They are working with other local hospitals to make sure that they can have a clean hospital or clean operating room, or we're being very cautious. There's several hospitals in the area that are working together to make sure that that has happened.
So you mentioned the PPEs, which is something that we non-medical professionals haven't really heard before, but we've heard about it so much and read about it that we all feel, hey, I know what a PPE is. So let me ask you, we've heard about shortages. How is your hospital experiencing a shortage of that? Or are you guys, do you have the protection that you need?
They're being extremely diligent about monitoring the amount of PPEs that we're using. We are given a mask that we're asked to place in a bag and hang on to and reuse. If you are going into a COVID-19 patient's room, you have an N95 and you place a regular mask over that, and then you take that regular mask off when you leave that room so that the face of the regular mask is considered contaminated, but the N95 is not. So we're able to conserve some of the N95s. Gloves and gowns have been okay for now. In the beginning, we actually had a large percentage of guests that were coming in and seeing their family members that were taking the boxes of masks. I don't think they understood that it was going to impede, in the long run. I don't think anyone was intentionally trying to harm anybody, but it can. We really need those masks at the hospital. So that actually stopped pretty quickly. We took the boxes. Originally, during flu season, you will see boxes placed all around the hospital so that guests, when they're coming in, or patients' family members are coming in to see them, they have access to them. They can put the mask on and make sure to protect themselves and protect the family member. So once we realized that that was happening, those were removed from the public ability to get a hold of them.
That was interesting what you were sharing concerning the additional face mask over the N95. Is that something unique to your hospital, or have you heard that they're doing that in other locations as well?
Oh, they're doing it all over. Any possible way to conserve the N95, because the N95 is going to be the one that's going to filter out any of the virus. Where we have face shields, we've actually have face shields that the community has made for our hospital, and they've brought in a lot of the ones are the 3D printing. All over the country, they have been using those and donating those to the hospitals, and we're using those to use in place of goggles, or in place of if somebody coughs, it's kept away from your face.
So I'm curious, you had mentioned a moment ago concerning cooperation. Uh, in your experience, Deborah, as an RN working in the hospital system, is the level of cooperation different now than before, or is it about the same?
Cooperation as far as
Between hospitals. You had mentioned that hospitals were
oh
cooperating on a few
no,
items.
they've always been very cooperative. It's just I mean, I've seen such a huge joint effort between everybody in the hospital. We're talking engineers, we're talking about the maintenance crew. They've come in and they have redesigned the hospital to where it's functional in a completely different way. They've made rooms that are more isolation rooms. They've looked at the ductwork to try to do airborne rooms if they were needed. They've done all kinds of different things to make it more conducive for a virus of this nature.
That sounds awesome.
It's amazing. I mean, I've never seen this kind of, from every single level, from the EVS, which is our environmental services workers, these are the housekeepers, all the way to the top of administrators walking around, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're actually talking with the respiratory therapist and asking them how would this work, and how could we make it work the best, and what would be the best way to put this in place. And they've asked everyone to put their input in. You see this a lot where, oh, they should have asked so-and-so how to make this work more functional when they build something, and they are doing that in this circumstance. You get a lot of teasing about, oh boy, if I had designed this bed, I would have designed it differently. And if I had designed this hospital, I would have designed it differently. But they're taking everyone's opinion and listening to it and trying to make the input as productive as possible so that it's functional and safe. There was a nurse who made a comment. We had just recently updated our emergency room and added an entire new wing to the emergency room. And when they did that, it's kind of a large room. And so they were talking about, well, okay, if we're going to intubate this person, this is what we're going to do. And a nurse came into that conversation and she said, well, wouldn't it make more sense to go ahead and take this small room that's more condensed that we can close off, intubate that person in that room where it's more confined, and now you don't have this spread of this virus while you're doing an aerosol procedure. And they were like, oh, great. And 15 minutes later, boom, they're changing that room to make it, better for everyone, and that you're not going to expose, and then you don't have to do that much more cleaning of a huge area. So it's trying to take in every aspect, because not only do we use the PPEs, the physicians and the nurses, but so do the EVS, so do the people that clean the room, so do the people that are designing the room. When they go in and they have to design a room or make a change to a design to a room, they have to wear that protective equipment as well. And every single time you go into a room, you change that PPE. So if you walk in, you have on a gown and you go, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, you have to, you can't walk out and grab it. And sometimes it's, convenient. You might be able to have someone place it in the ante room, which is the room in between the dirty and the clean room. It's that room where they can set the product down and you can pick it up and take it into the room. But sometimes that doesn't always happen.
It sounds like you're working in an amazing environment with amazing people who are really bonding together for a common purpose.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive. I have to say, this is a daunting task. I can't imagine. It's like reinventing the wheel from the get-go of, this is what we normally do in a hospital, to we have this huge monster at the door.
Yeah.
So it's been
So
impressive.
we've been hearing about flattening the curve. We've been hearing that we do not want to overwhelm our medical and hospital systems. In the area that you are working in, has that curve been flattened, or do you see the system being overwhelmed?
No, I definitely think the curve has been flattened. I think that, closing California as quickly as it was closed has made a huge difference. Governor Newsom made a big difference by doing the way that he closed the state, and the curve that we've had. We've definitely been able to manage our patients. We haven't been denying anyone a ventilator if they needed it. We've had plenty, thank goodness. I feel very badly for the folks in New York. I can't imagine what that feels like. I know it's stressful and overwhelming here in California, and it's nothing like what it is in New York or even in the bigger cities. This happens to be a more rural area. It's a little less condensed. People are pretty compliant. We haven't had a lot of, aside from people, taking the hikes that they probably shouldn't take. That's been the biggest issue, is that, people are hiking trails, trying to stay healthy, trying to get outside. And that's probably been our biggest issue as far as non-compliance with staying at home or self-isolation.
So it sounds like in the area that you're in, not only is the medical professional teams working together to battle this, but the whole community seems to be stepping up to change their behavior to keep it from overwhelming our systems.
Yes, I believe that to be true. I think most of our patients are actually between 45 and 65. I was kind of surprised at that age range. Some of our sickest patients are actually in their 40s, which was very shocking to me. Everyone keeps saying, oh, it's going to be the elderly, it's going to be the elderly. But I think part of that has been that a lot of people are really conscientiously staying away from the seniors. Let's not go see grandma. Let's not, visit, and let's be extra cautious, and wiping down the groceries and limiting the visits. We culturally in America, it's not uncommon that as the population gets older, there's more isolation. Well, where I am at, there's a large Hispanic community, and that grandma is right there with most of the family members. They live in the same household, and the Hispanics in our area have been amazing and being really, really careful with grandma and grandpa, and making sure not to expose them, and making sure to wash their hands and wash the groceries. And
well, while you're going down that list, can you share with us some advice on how we can help continue this trend of keeping the seniors in our area healthy? What practical things should we be doing?
It's definitely going to be limiting who visits grandma, and that, grandma and grandpa are, if they're in their home or if they're in the same household, making sure that there's not an influx of people that don't live in the home coming and going. That tends to be probably where that's hard. You have extended family members, and you want to see them, and they want to see their grandparents, and they want to see everybody and help out. And it's not like you can just swing by and, oh, here, let me bring you, a bag of groceries, and you have to wipe the groceries down. We actually, my husband is 70. And so when I do the grocery shopping, I come home and I leave the groceries outside, and I wipe them all down with a bleach wipe, and then I let them dry, and I bring them into the house, and I throw away the bag outside. It's all of that. When I come home from work, I actually have a trailer outside my home. I go into the trailer, I take my shower, I take off my uniform in there, I leave everything in there, and then I come in to the side of the house, wash my clothing in the laundry room, wipe down the laundry room, and come back out to the front of the house and go into the shower in the house and take another shower, just to ensure that I'm not inadvertently bringing in one germ that I didn't realize I had on me. You just don't realize that you really become very conscientious of what you're touching, and how often you touch your face, and how often you adjust your glasses. And all of that. And my husband has a beard, and he's, I'm like, stop touching your face. Or he'll just, I'm like, no, now go wash your hands and wash your face.
That reminds me, I saw a cartoon where a dog is speaking to its human, and the human has one of those cones of shame on.
Yeah,
And he says, hey, no, remember, no touching your face. And I got a kick out of that since
it's
I have a
true.
dog, and we've had to put the cone of shame on. And I do have a beard. And so maybe I should do these with my cone of shame on.
Yeah. It's very inadvertent. You don't even realize that, your beard itches, or or for ladies, the earrings, the glasses, or moving your hair back. It's just, everything you touch the shopping cart, and then you touch the door, and you touch even the groceries, and you're watching other people. If you consciously watch other people in the grocery store, you're like, stop touching that.
Well, okay, so let me ask you a question, Deborah. So if you've just been joining us, we're treated to this conversation with Deborah, who's a RN in a hospital working in a COVID-19 wing. Deborah, my wife and I do the shopping. Well, I'll be fully candid. My wife does the shopping for her parents
Yes.
who are in the area. We're also trying to limit, my excuse is I'm trying to limit the amount of times I go out of the house, which is why I'm not doing the shopping. It sounds valid, but we all know the truth. So my wife does the shopping for her parents, and she drops the groceries off. What tips do you have for her or others who are helping seniors and doing shopping for them? What can we do to make that activity as safe as possible for our senior loved ones?
I do the shopping also for my husband's mom, who's 93 and living in the area as well. I will, because she lives in an independent living, but it's all communal, and it's in one building, and they're all apartments that are, set in the same building. I do the shopping, and I will go around to her back door and go into her back door. So I'm actually not walking into the building. And, I consider myself a vector. I consider myself, because of where I work and because of what I do, that I would be that person that could inadvertently expose someone. But I also understand that I have a good understanding of what needs to be cleaned and how to be cautious. And so wearing a mask is imperative, because you are protecting the person you are seeing when you wear the mask, and wear the mask properly. Put the mask over your nose and making sure that it's tightly down and that it's on your ears, and don't pull it down and wear it down under your chin. Each time you pull it down under your chin and you rest it on your chin, you've now taken those germs on the front of that mask and you put them at the bottom of your chin. And then let's say, you touch your chin, and then you touch something else, or you touch the front of the mask and then you touch something else. If you've been around someone that has had the virus or has the virus, and it's on the outside of the mask, you're going to be spreading it. So wearing a mask is imperative, and you're protecting the other person. I wipe down the groceries. I go very infrequently. I go about every 2 weeks. I go and get her things that she needs, like if she needs pull-ups, I'll get her pull-ups. I'll get her groceries. I'll get her prescriptions and fill her prescription boxes. And then
Deborah, let me interject a question. So you mentioned
Yes.
wiping down the groceries. Excuse my ignorance, but I don't know how to wipe down the groceries. Can you be more specific on that? What specifically should we do on that topic?
Because we're so limited on, the bleach wipes or the Sani wipes that you pull up out of the little bottles, I actually just use a wash rag or a white towel, and I actually just spray bleach on it. And the spray bleach, which is about 50-50, 50% bleach, and then I wipe down the outside of the groceries, and I wipe down the outside of the bag, and I let it dry. The important thing is letting it dry on its own, because if you wipe it dry, then it doesn't have that time to kill time. And it's usually about 2 to 3 minutes for actually the kill time for it to work properly. So I wipe them down, I bring them in, and I even, as I take things out of the package, I even wipe the insides of the packages, like when I take her medications and put them in her box, her daily box, I wipe the box down when I'm done, and then I wipe down the cabinet when I'm done, and I wipe down the sink when I'm done. It's just, and the door handle when I leave her home. I'm very conscientious, or if I happen to sit in a chair, I wipe the arms of the chair. It's because I also look at the fact that where she lives, and now that they are self-isolating as well in their apartments, they are staying in their apartments. They're not having communal meals like they used to. So then, that's a whole nother animal. You're looking at the fact that these people are isolated, and then they have no family coming to see them, and then they also have no access to their friends. And so then you've got depression, and you've got anxiety, and you've got confusion. They're elderly. She's 93. She doesn't quite understand. She doesn't watch the news on her own. She doesn't want to. She's very sharp. She's very bright. She memorizes the scores of the basketball scores so that she can talk to the gentlemen in the community. And I'm like, when did you start liking basketball? She goes, well, what else am I going to talk to these guys about? That's all they talk about is basketball. She's very funny.
And she sounds very intelligent.
She's a riot. She's a very spry, spontaneous young woman at 93.
Well, I will, my experience in the senior living industry, I will completely agree with the comment you made that these communities that seniors move to, one of the key benefits and features is socialization, the ability to connect with other people, the ability to develop friendships, to help combat loneliness.
Exactly.
And you are so right that during this time where we're asking people to isolate for their physical health, it is having an impact on social and mental health.
Absolutely. Even kids, we've taken the kids out of school, and, I'm wondering what the PTSD is going to be like for them when they, oh no, you can go back and hug Grammy and Grandpa, and you can go back and, talk to your friends. They're going to be like, no. I don't want to get that virus. Yeah, I think it's going to be in a very different world when this is over. And I'm not sure that it ever will actually be over. I think we're just going to change the way we manage medicine, the way we manage our daily lives. I think this will be more similar to the way China has done for a long time, since SARS and since MERS has been, prevalent in their society. I think that's going to be the way it is here as well.
Deborah, that's an interesting topic. If I could ask you a question on that, and those that might be joining us recently, Deborah is an RN who works in a hospital and is working with COVID-19 patients. And we're talking about kind of the impacts of society right now, and how COVID-19 and everything we're experiencing now may have an impact on us. Deborah, I spent some time in China and really, really enjoyed China. Love China, love the people, really enjoy the culture. And I found something very unique when I was there, which was completely different than my culture. And that is, people who are ill feel a strong sense of social responsibility and will wear a mask. When I came back to the States after my trip, I saw people coughing. This is not during the COVID-19 crisis. This is prior. No one ever would wear a mask, that from my observations. Now we're all wearing masks. Do you think this will change our culture, or do you think we're going to go back to never wearing masks?
No, I think it should change our culture. I think we should be much more conscientious, but I mean, that opens up a whole new can of worms. So when you look at socialized medicine and the fact that here in America, if you don't go to work and you don't get paid and you don't have insurance, it's entirely different. It's very difficult for Americans to stay home when they're ill, and we're not really encouraged to stay home when we're ill. You come on in if you don't have a fever, or, it's okay to work and, just wash your hands a lot. And, I am surprised that we haven't had the increase in cases here in America more so. I was really expecting more because of that, because we don't have that access to medical care, and we don't have the access to making sure that we can stay home if we are ill. But I guess, a lot of that was put into perspective when they put the country on, shut down and said everybody stay home regardless. I think we're in for a rude awakening financially later. It's already showing its, rearing its ugly head. But yes, I do think that we're going to see some changes. I think we're going to see that people are more conscientious, that they'll start wearing masks, that I wish it would have been that way in the first place, but.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice as well, but I'll be, candid. No one else would wear masks, and so I did not feel comfortable wearing a mask when I had a cold. We'll see if this changes. Or maybe we could all go to Chick-fil-A and see the really cool cow print masks they wear and start wearing those.
Good. I've seen some very interesting masks out there, and some of them are inappropriate, which I thought that was very funny. And she said she knew that somebody was too close by being able to describe what was on her mask. I'm like, oh, I don't think I could do that, but that's pretty interesting.
I'll stick with the Chick-fil-A looking mask.
Yeah.
Deborah, there's something I'm also noticing in the culture, and that has to do with who we as a culture see as heroes. In the past, celebrities have been put on pedestals as heroes. And in some of the reading I've been doing, and yes, once in a while I do venture and look at BuzzFeed, I see that there's a lot of backlash when we have some celebrities saying, hey, please, stay home. And you see it looks like a palatial mansion, compared to the place that I live. And you see these vast grounds, and they're saying, oh, we all need to sacrifice and pull together. And there seems to be a little bit of a backlash toward that. At the same time, we're hearing stories of medical workers who are not metaphorically, but are literally on the front lines and putting their lives at risk. And I've seen over and over again the word hero attached to those who are in your profession, you, other nurses, LVNs, physicians. Respiratory therapist, but you also gave another list of people, those who are not the word maintenance, but those who are working on the infrastructure at the hospital,
right?
Who are there,
right?
Putting
their
lives at risk, and the engineers, and putting their families at risk, as you were mentioning all the work you have to do coming back. So, as a newly crowned hero, and please do not say you're not, because you are. What ways can we as society, culture, and individuals say thank you to you? What would be a meaningful thank you that you could hear from us?
In all honesty, I think that, from the engineers all the way down to the EVS workers, which is our environmental services workers, the nurses, the respiratory therapists, the, IT worker, the person who's keeping the computer up and maintenance, and they're working as well. I think the majority of us would really like to see that the community is supporting some of the more down and out, some of the homeless people, some of the people that are having issues with being able to afford a meal, because we're getting a lot of support, and we truly appreciate it. And I know that everyone has been so excited about, wow, this is great, we get donuts. I'm like, okay, we don't need any more donuts, people. Or coffee, we get coffee as well. We do appreciate that. It's been amazing, but I think there's a little bit of level of guilt in that you're seeing this long line of people who are hungry and they don't have food. And I think that if we could make sure to support them in that effort, that thank you would be to support the people that are invisible, that we don't see as often in the community, the folks that are hungry, that are in these long lines looking for food. I would love to see that kind of support, so making some kind of donations to a food bank and making sure that they have food. I mean, I can't imagine the kids that are hungry and they miss their friends, or the elderly that can't get out, that are in wheelchairs or incapacitated in some way and they can't get to the grocery store. That would be great.
Well, Deborah, let me say from everyone at Everything Senior Living, thank you for your service. Thank you for putting yourself on the line. Thank you for serving your community. And your insights today have been invaluable. Have really appreciated the comments you've made, the encouragement you've made, and you really have made me feel like I am part of the battle, and that there's something I can do, especially with that list you just gave us. So, Deborah,
every
thank you.
little bit helps.
I agree. So if those listening, if you have found this informative, please, we'd appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button, the like button. Please share your comments. Comments are very important to us. If you have questions for us or would like to contact us, please reach out to us via email at contact@everythingseniorliving.com. So once again, on behalf of Everything Senior Living, Deborah, thank you for everything. And we look forward to seeing all of our viewers again soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.